Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to Denali National Park Headquarters. The geography in the parks features the world's highest mountain in relief. When assessing a mountain's relief, it is measured from the elevation at which it starts and all the way to the top. Denali Mountain, also known as Mount McKinley, measures 20,310 feet, with the world's highest mountain, Mount Everest, reaching 29,302 feet, but only about 15,000 feet in relief. Relief is the measurement of a mountain's height from its base to its peak, but the elevation is the maximum height of a mountain without regard to its base. The area surrounding Denali was formed into a national park and was established on February 26, 1917, as Mountain McKinley National Park. The headquarters of the park is located within the first mile of the George Parks Highway entrance and offers visitors restaurants, hotels, and gift shops. The mountains of this area are covered with alder and willow, but in the valleys, spruce, fir, and birch trees dominate the skyline. Moose, caribou, and sheep roam the trails while they hide from black bears, wolves, and grizzly bears. In the early morning hours of June 4, 1980, 21-year-old Dan Marren and two of his co-workers were making their way across the parking lot. They were employees of one of the hotels that housed visitors to the park and were used to the beauty and dangers the park presented. As the hotel workers walked along the road, they watched two huge moose trotting toward them. These moose were not moseying like normal. They had a sense of urgency in their steps and were continually looking over their own back trail as if something was following them. Now, brown bears are not known to hunt in packs or tolerate each other's presence for extended periods of time. They are usually known to hunt and exist in solitude, except when the salmon run. During this time, the riverbanks are crowded by giant bears, pacified by bellies full of salmon roe and skin. They tolerate each other during this time due to an abundance of food, and this is not the typical condition for their existence. As the workers watched the nervous moose galloping across the road, they noticed that two huge grizzlies emerged from the same location on the roadside from which the moose had come. One of the bears was larger than the other, but they were clearly both grown and mature. Dan and his co-workers knew that the presence of the bears presented a substantial risk to their safety. Most of the time, grizzlies around the park would have little to do with humans, especially when there was more than one person in the group. The tension in the air was high, but the people did expect the bears to offer very little more than a passing interest in them as they loped across the road. Dan and the others stopped walking as soon as they had seen the bears following the moose. They knew that drawing the bears' attention could create a precarious situation, so they froze in their tracks. To their horror, the larger grizzly craned his neck toward the small crowd of people and immediately veered his loping stride toward them. The bears were only about 100 yards away when they initially emerged from the roadside brush, but the larger one quickly closed that distance. The workers grew increasingly nervous as the bear focused its eyes on them while it bounced effortlessly toward them. They undoubtedly hoped the bear would peel off and return to chasing the moose after investigating what they were. But the bear wasn't planning on chasing the moose anymore once it determined that there was easier prey nearby. Like a covey of quail exploding from brush, the hotel workers scattered in panic once the bear got within 20 yards. Dan ran toward the trees while the other two ran in other directions. He reached up and pulled himself into the tree, hoping to get high enough to discourage the grizzly from pursuing him any further. At this time, most people believed that grizzly bears could not effectively climb trees, and seeking shelter there was the best strategy. For the most part, grizzlies do not invest their energy in pursuing people who climb trees. But if the tree has low limbs that allow the bears to climb up, sort of what people would need to climb a tree, then they can climb up and pursue people. As Dan hurriedly pulled himself higher into the tree, the grizzly quickly approached the base of the tree. Now, the average grown grizzly bear stands at around 7 feet tall on its hind legs and can reach another couple of feet higher after extending its front paws. This means that anyone trying to escape a grizzly must get the lowest portion of their body at least 10 feet into the tree to avoid its reach. Dan almost got there, but not quite. As soon as the bear reached the base of Dan's tree, it stood to its hind legs and stretched its powerful jaws toward his lagging left foot. In another second or so, Dan would have been able to pull his foot out of reach of the bear, but before he could do that, the bear latched onto his ankle. The pressure exerted by the bear's jaws drove its huge canines into the bones of Dan's ankle, causing excruciating pain. Once the bear had clamped onto Dan's ankle, it used its mass to prevent him from climbing any higher into the tree. A bizarre tug of war broke out momentarily as Dan fought for his life. This struggle didn't last very long, as the bear used its weight to overwhelm Dan's grip on the tree trunk. In one powerful jerk on his ankle, the bear sent Dan plummeting back to the base of the tree. As soon as he hit the ground, Dan knew he had to protect himself or escape. This bear had run right up to his small group, then pursued him into the tree and even pulled him from its heights. It was clearly not going to be satisfied with pulling him from the tree. Dan scrambled to his feet and was filled with terror, being only a few feet from the massive bear. For an unknown reason, the brown bear ran a short distance away and glanced around. It almost seemed like the bear was trying to find the other people who had fled its jaws. Perhaps it was looking for the moose it was previously pursuing. Either way, Dan wasn't waiting around to find out which option the bear was most interested in. He immediately began to pull himself back up into the same tree. It was only a few seconds between Dan's abrupt landing to the point that he climbed back into the tree. It was possible that the bear considered him as food and was searching for another victim as it glanced around. After looking for anyone else around him, the bear turned his attention back toward Dan. This time, the man had climbed as fast as he could to get away from the bear. He knew better than to wait for the bear any longer, and had to get himself higher into the tree, even if it meant the bear would climb up to get him. As soon as the bear redirected its attention to Dan, it returned to the base of the tree. Again, it stood to its hind legs and reached its jaws toward Dan's ankle. It also placed its paws against the tree, trying to reach him one more time. This time, Dan had managed to get just out of range of the bear's jaws and claws just before it could bite him again. He watched as the bear was just a few inches from reaching him. It repeatedly tried to get its jaws onto his foot again and tried to pull itself higher into the tree. After trying for a short time, the bear reluctantly gave up on his pursuit of Dan and redirected its predatory urges back to the moose. After he was sure the bears had left, Dan and the other hotel workers yelled to locate one another. They nervously emerged from their hiding places and regrouped to return to the hotel. Dan had suffered puncture wounds in his left ankle from the giant bear's canines. As it tugged him from the tree, the pressure of the bear's jaws had bruised and stretched his tissues around the wounds it inflicted. He was taken to the nearby medical center, and his wounds were cleaned and bandaged. Dan was able to make a complete recovery from the injuries inflicted during the bear attack. There was no source I could find indicating that the Grizzlies were pursued or killed by authorities. The attack happened so quickly, and the bears immediately fled the area in pursuit of the moose. No further action was reportedly taken against the bears. After reviewing the facts surrounding this attack, I have a few questions for you. Even though the bear didn't actually climb the tree, do you think climbing a tree is a safe way to escape a grizzly bear attack? Why didn't the bear kill or maul Dan worse than it did? Do you think the two grizzly bears were cooperating while they pursued the moose? Would the scenario of massive grizzly bears forming hunting packs keep you awake at night? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.